Today's objective is to learn about induction hardening. In this, I have divided into two portions. Try to understand the metallurgical aspects of induction hardening first. Understand what really changes are happening when you do an induction hardening. That's the first part of it. Second part, we'll learn about in an induction hardening, what are all the systems will be there and what are the importance of the coil, what really happens to achieve that, what are the important parameters, and all those things we learn in the next half of the what is called the induction hardening. Okay, in the beginning, because all of us know heat treatment is basically there to change the metallurgical metallurgical structure or microstructure. It alters the properties of the material by altering the microstructure. Hence, it is always important to understand the basics, how the what is called the change in microstructure is going to happen, and what are the things we need to control if you want to get a right microstructures in the property in the material. Hence, it's very important to understand the basic metallurgical changes is going to happen in the when you do a heat treatment processes. All of us know that the manufacturing process is a very important things today in the world. In the last 100 years, whatever the changes happened, yeah, drastic change happened in the last 100 years. It's the three things are responsible. Manufacturing is also one of them. The other two are technologies and the materials, and manufacturing plays a key role in whatever the developments happening in the world today in the areas of the product or parts or whatever it is. Hence, it's always you should be on top of it. What are the types of a manufacturing process, how it will influence the final parts of the product in it. Many manufacturing processes are there: casting, forming, machining, joining, finishing. I may not go into the details of all those things. These are all the basic manufacturing processes. Heat treatment is also one of the manufacturing process. We call it the secondary process it is, where we alter the microstructure to get the required properties in the materials. Another important, we'll concentrate on this heat treatment today. Another important process is additive manufacturing today. It is by adding layer by layer, build the parts. This is called additive manufacturing, slowly becoming popular in the engineering industry today. Let us concentrate on a heat treatment. What is actually the heat treatment and why we should do the heat treatment? These are the two questions always. Is it a necessary? So it's important to do the heat treatment. And what really happens in a heat treatment? Basically, heat treatment is a thermal process. It is a thermal process. That means heating and cooling. Wherever the heating and cooling are there, we call it as a thermal process. Basically, heat treatment is a thermal process. By heating and cooling, I try to alter the properties of the material. That process is called heat treatment. Very simple way to explain that, right? Whenever you heat it and cool it, right? That's what is the process it is. Thermal processing of an alloy for inducing certain property changes in the material, right? It is basically heating and cooling. Nothing else is there in the particular heat treatment processes. We know that any material to perform better, any material component, let us say there is a particular part is there in a product, it has to perform its duty. That's what the design engineer is looking at. There are few requirements are there. If any part need to be performed in a better way. One is what is called the size and shape. All of us know, right? What size it should be, what shape it should have, plays an important role in the deciding the performance of that particular part in a product. There is one more aspect is called the strength is also a very important. This basically comes from the material, right? All of us know strength comes from the material, because that also is a very important. It's not just size and shape. If you're having an excellent shape and size is also perfect for the assembly and all those things, but that material don't have the strength in it, it's a premature failure is going to happen. Hence, strength plays a very important role in performance of any parts in any product, right? Hence, this strength comes from the material. That means we need to select the right material so that I will get a required strength to hold the what is called the load or take the load, also to perform some other functions, right? Hence, it is a selection of a material plays a very important role. Along with the selection of the material, right, there are two choices there for me to select the material. Let us say particular parts required a strength of 600 MPa or 700 MPa strength is required. Directly I can select a material, maybe an alloyed steel, that gives directly the strength of about 700 MPa and use it directly. That's the one way of doing it straight away. The another way is select a inferior material. It's having only 300 MPa strength or something. The cost will be very less for that particular material. By increase the strength of it by doing some processing, so that finally you'll achieve a 700 MPa with a what is called as a low cost material. Do the processing on that and achieve the required hardness in that particular hardness or the strength in that particular material. There is another way of that. Designer always thinks in the those two way, when these two way, and when the cost considered, because when you design there are 2-3 parameters, right? He has to design. Cost is one of the parameters for the design, right? You have to design a part, it is having a low cost in it, so that your product will be low cost. It is easy to sell in the market without compromising the functionality. Very, very clear, right? Hence designers will be looking at a low cost material and do some processing to increase the strength of that material, so that the overall cost will come down. In such cases, heat treatment play a very, very important role. Okay, let us come to a induction hardening now. Particularly all this information, brief information what was there, right? It is to understand the induction hardening. Induction hardening is a shallow hardening processes. That's what I said. Only for a depth of 1 or 2 mm we need to harden that particular surfaces. All of us understood that. In those area I would like to get a martensite, I need to harden it. Those 1 to 2 mm depth I need to harden it, right? That's why the induction, and that means my cooling rate should be faster than the critical cooling rate, and I should get 100% martensite. That's very, very important processes for the induction hardening. The first stage, there are 2 stages for an induction hardening. One is called hardening, induction hardening, followed immediately with a tempering. I'll come to that. I'll explain it later. These are 2 stages are going to happen inside. You may not be knowing. One is hardening and the tempering. Hardening is tempering for only for a depth of 1 or 2 mm as per your requirement of a case depth. Let us say you want a case depth of 2 mm. For a 2 mm only, I need to harden and temper. This is what is the control is required here. I need to ensure that only 2 mm I should get the martensite, center I should not get that. That's why it is called as a shallow hardening particular processes. And the medium carbon steel is a more suitable material for this. I'll come to that. I already explained. Low carbon steels, 100% martensite is not possible. If you want to do the hardening and tempering, low carbon steel cannot be hardened because the cooling rate is required. For low carbon, if you want to get 100% martensite in a low carbon steel, less than 0.3% carbon is called as a low carbon steel. If you want to get 100% martensite in a low carbon steel, your cooling, right, cooling from 900 degrees to room temperature should come less than 5 seconds. It is impossible. No cooling media is available to achieve. The brine itself will take about 6 to 7 minutes to reach that particular temperature because of the variations. Theoretically, it is about 5 minutes, but it takes about what is called as the 6 to 7 minutes to reach the room temperature. Hence, if you do a low carbon steel, quench it into water, brine, agitated brine, it takes about 7 minutes. Some of them are already converted into perlite. 100% martensite cannot be get in a low carbon steel. Hence, low carbon steels are not suitable for induction hardening. That's the first statement I am making. Low carbon steels are not suitable for induction hardening because 100% martensite I cannot get in a low carbon steel, but is one of the key requirement of an induction hardening. Then you come to a high carbon steel. High carbon steel, getting martensite is not an issue at all in a high carbon steel. Even quenching it to water, I'll get a martensite there. There, high carbon steel also not recommended too much for an induction hardening. Only reason because high carbon steels, if any steel is having more than 0.8% carbon, will have some amount of carbide in it in the original structure. Along with the ferrite, perlite, will be perlite and cementite will be there. Cementites are very hard structure. When you heat it to an austenitic temperature, it requires some time to convert that cementite back to austenite. Ferrite and perlite will convert faster, but cementite requires some more time to convert into austenite. But in induction hardening, I don't have time. Suddenly I need to quench it into water. If you keep more time, more depth, instead of 2 mm, it will become 4 mm. I don't want 4 mm. It will bring down your toughness of the material. Hence, if it is only 2 mm, I want only 2 mm. In such cases, if you hold for some time to wait to this carbide converting back to austenite, then my case depth will increase, thereby I'm compromising on the strength of the, the toughness of the material. Hence, it is not recommended to use the high carbon steel also because of the presence of the carbide in it. That's why medium carbon steel or medium carbon alloyed steel are suitable for this particular types of applications. Hence, most of the alloys you might have seen, those who are doing here induction hardening already, people will be using medium carbon steel, that is 0.3 to 0.6% carbon. Those alloys only are used in an induction hardening process. Induction hardening can be done, let us say, in the entire shaft surface, I don't want hardening. I want only for a length of 10 mm, I can do it. One step keeping, I can do it. Or for the entire shaft, if you want to do it, in a progressively, I can do it continuously. Progressive surface induction hardening is also available. Spot induction hardening is also available, right? And step by step induction hardening is also. I'll do the induction hardening now here. The one more area here also I will do it. Here and here. Here this area and this area I will do it. That is also possible. So induction hardening, I was telling, basically here the aim of that induction hardening is the first. There are two-step process. In fact, it is hardening and tempering. It's like a bulk heat treatment process. Whatever we are doing, hardening and tempering, it's also followed here also. Induction hardening also it is followed. But only difference is in a bulk heat treatment process, entire shaft or the entire component is hardened and tempered. But in case of an induction hardening, we harden only for a depth of 2 mm or whatever the case depth you want, and tempered also to that particular area we are going to temper it. Okay, hence that's all the only difference. So since it is only for the small area, heating and cooling, right? I don't have a time, because if you keep more time, entire shaft will become heated. That's why only less time is provided for the heating and holding, and then it is cooled. Heat to austenite temperature quickly. That's the first requirement of an induction hardening. That means take it to an austenitic band quickly. The reason quickly is you have to, using a high frequency electric power, you need to heat it quickly, so that if you want a depth of 2 mm to be hardened, only 2 mm depth component should go to an austenitic band. The center should not go to an austenitic band at all. That means the top, let us say austenitic band, it is a 1080 steel. I know that above 723 degrees in austenite. I know that 723 plus, let us say about 800 degrees centigrade is the band temperature what we have set, right? Use a high frequency electric power, so that in a short span, maybe about 2-3 seconds, if you high frequency electric power is passed into this particular component, for a depth of 2 mm, the temperature will be close to 800 degree or 800, in that range. The below that 2 mm, the temperature is less than 800 degree, even less than 700 is 23 degrees centigrade. That means below, that means the score is temperature is below lower critical temperature. For a depth of 1 or 2 mm as per your requirement, right? It's there only the temperature is in the austenitic band, it is above upper critical temperature. You understood the clarity now? When this shaft of 1080 steel to be heat treated, I will heat quickly. How to do it? First, a high frequency electric power. Frequency, you can high voltage power, let us say, pass it so that through the coil in an induction. I'll come to all those things, the process in details, what exactly it is been done. But heating, how you are going to heat it? Sometimes laser is used. There is a laser hardening. Laser is used there. That is next to the induction hardening. But heating media here, it is electricity, induction method of heating. That's why it is called induction hardening. There the laser is used. Laser is there also. Surface hardening is only done there in the laser hardening. Okay, use electric power. Heat this particular component for a depth of only 2 mm should be above the upper critical temperature. Below that, it should be below the lower critical temperature. That fast. If you leave more time, more depth will become above upper critical temperature. Hence, the timing of heating control is very, very important in case of a induction hardening. How how much time you pass a high voltage electricity into the coil, so that only for a depth of your requirement, let us say 2 mm depth, only for a 2 mm depth, you will have the temperature above upper critical temperature. Inside core will be below the lower critical temperature. In that stage, now it is at the stage, that means 2 mm depth, we have the temperature is above upper critical temperature. Below 2 mm depth, it is below the lower critical temperature, maybe a 500 degree, 400 degree or something. At this stage, when you quench it into water, you can see the diagram here, right? In the one of the key requirement of the heat treatment, the first thing we need to convert the old structure, ferrite, perlite, cementite, whatever the structure is there, we need to convert to austenite. It is possible only when you go above the upper critical temperature. Now in this component, because of that heating, for a depth of only 2 mm only, is above upper critical temperature. There, all the ferrite, perlite, whatever was there, it is converted into austenite now. But below 2 mm depth, it is below the lower critical temperature. Old ferrite, perlite only there. It is not converted into austenite yet. In that stage, if you quench it into water suddenly, cool to your room temperature, then the austenite will get converted.